Who am I? There are those out there among us at this time that are feeling compelled to get online and speak out, speak their truth, speak their opinion, speak up. And that's just what my little project is here, as I humbly ask the question, who am I? Who am I? What is this? What is this technology that I have woken up in? And how does it work? How does it work? How does it function to offer you a smoother ride than the one that you were having? And maybe have things go your way a little more. You need to understand who you are. And I can offer some insight into some of this, and then you yourself should be capable of filling in the gaps, because some of this stuff is going to be stuff we all have sensed and known and looked at from different directions already. We're going to add it up. We're going to channel insights. We're going to ponder in the positive um, realms for an hour or so. We're going to talk about current events. We're going to talk about our nature. Who are we? Who am I? Who am I? And what is the meaning of the madness? The madness. The madness of Mad King Donald. Oh my goodness. That is crazy. Crazy, crazy. Although, to tell you the truth, I have seen this one coming. And not, although, yeah, yes, I have been anticipating it both with trepidation, obviously, and nervousness, but feeling more like um, the sensation more being like getting ready to go down the big scary slide or whatever. It's not like I have felt this was something we needed to get through. And not being entirely unpleased about its arrival, because I know what it is doing. It is asking us to look at ourselves and understand who we are. This spectacle that is going on in front of us all acts like a collective visual aid, a collective point of reference that I can reference and speak about these things, and you can look at it from where you're standing. It's like this big common thing that is staring us all down. Never mind what that expression might have been. Uh, and so I can refer to it and you can understand it, and the whole thing, hopefully, God willing, at the other side of this debacle, and I do believe that there will be another side, that there will be the other side to this, but it's not really just the end of Trump. And it's not even just the end of Trumpism and the authoritarian. Well, what it we are being confronted by a philosophy, people. The philosophy is what the problem is. What our dear leader's problem is that he cannot see the world past a zero-sum game equation. And so in his mind, I win, you lose, or we win, you all lose. Or the problem is it's a false template. And that's what we need to get rid of, is the this philosophy, but then you got to understand where this philosophy comes from. It's not just a philosophy. It is an imprint from psychic damage, the scorching of our young, the way we are scarred and marked and molded and shaped. And this all has to do with who we are and how we function. But, I want to talk about it all from the perspective of we don't have a problem that we can't fix. There isn't a problem out there that we can't fix. And actually, we're going to fix all of our problems. We are on the way to fixing our problems. You just have to get sight of where we're going as opposed to focusing on where we are. And there's more where we're going than there's so much that you could focus on specifically that you got to pull back to the general. You got to pull back to the general, and you got to know. Oh, so first off, I feel like I've started all over the place, all over the map, and kind of more from my smaller self than from my larger self. And I would actually rather come from my larger self, from a meeting of the two places. My smaller identity doesn't know as much as she thinks she does, but she tries. She tries, and she's learning to get out of the way when it starts. Who am I? I'll tell you who you are. You are two selves. There are two of you. You have a larger self, and then you have your smaller self, the one that everybody knows. But this larger self that you are is in, there are both of you there. And it's so interesting. I'm sorry, my two selves are kind of lining up, and it's a cool view from inside. Who am I? Who am I? You are a vibrational being in a vibrational universe. As Abraham would say, you were source energy before you came into this physical body, and the larger part of you still is. You are actually extensions of source. We are all extensions of source. And we are going to ponder our nature for a bit of time and see whether it does not illuminate some insights into our present situation. Our present situation is that as an American, as a libtard, I have to reconcile the fact that my nation has been not exactly hijacked, taken over for sure. The machinery of the governance of the nationality we call American, its institutions, its military, its so much of it has been taken over, has been overrun by a kind of energy that is, and a philosophy. And it's sort of dark and heinous in a lot of ways. And you could get hyperbolic about it and not be wrong. You could also get matter of fact and more optimistic, and you could pull in a lot of other ideas about the meaning of this moment, and you'd be right about all of that too. And I'm going to do that more than the other. Let's just assume in a way that we are in trouble. We are facing a challenge in this moment, a challenge to our nationality, to our national identity. And who we are matters. So I am asking this question, who am I / who are we? And the we that I ask, excuse me, let me get my hair out of the microphone. The we that I refer to it's more than one. From where I stand, I am me, and we are America at one level. I am New Mexican at another level, but that one does not necessarily feel permanent to me. That just has to do with where I live. I am Arizonan because that's where I came from. I lived for the first, how huge number of years of my life, all except the first 40 years of my life. But now I live in New Mexico. But I am an American, and even if I expatriate, which I actually would like to do, for a number of reasons, not just for negative reasons. I don't necessarily want to flee a sinking ship. I can think of a lot of reasons why it might be a good idea for me to stay, to stay here while my country turns darkest. Except for, I don't think that's what's going to happen. I mean, it is happening. It is happening. However, we are starting to experience ourselves as our collective self, and in different events we can feel ourselves all present, this presence of ourselves. That's our collective self, our macro self. It's a real thing. Our macro self is a real thing, and your individual macro self is a real thing. You are a micro and a macro, and the blending of those two things is the meaning of your whole life, the meaning of your emotions, the meaning of your positive or negative trajectory. Which trajectory are you on? Because that's really, when it comes down to it, when at the end of the day, and not even at the end of the day, in any given moment, in a way, your ability to hold on to your stable, calm, contented, hopeful, perhaps even interested, eager, even engaged. How better can it get? It's a question of resonance with. It's a question of resonant frequencies from within yourself. You've got kind of two centers of frequency, two minds, if you will, two vortices of creation. One, your micro self, the other, your macro self, your source based, all of us self. And then the other one is your individual self actually has a vortex. It's a vortex big enough that you can start to feel it. You can feel it. And what's really important is you can feel when the two of you are in resonance, and you can feel when the two of you are in dissonance. Now, the whole thing has to do with, while you are projecting outward and scanning the field for conditions or whatever, and you find them that you resonate with, and you find them that you are dissonant with. And that equals your experience, by the way, that this is how your mechanism is operating. Now, the question becomes, so what's the object of the exercise? Well, The object of the exercise is both a collective and an individual one, just like yourself is both a macro, which is a collection of all of us. That's what the macro really is. It's not just the hard, cold, dead physical universe. It's the macro is a collection of all of us, just like your micro is actually a macro in a way, because you yourself, just in your physical body, as the individual that you are still a collection of some 50 to 100 trillion separate souls that are each going about their own business, not thinking about you and the big picture. They're not thinking about you in the big picture. They don't need to in order to operate optimally and have the highest level of organization and cooperation in the field that you can have. They just go about their business. And what is their business? Well, they are on a they have a yes no toggle switch going on, and you do too. And we're going to talk about this. And this all boils down to we're going to talk about a couple of pet ideas of mine. Um, I don't mean to sound egotistical, but there's some thought forms that I refer to commonly that if you start understanding my particular vernacular, my nomenclature, my jargon, then you'll more quickly be able to identify it in your own mind and go, oh yeah, I know what she's talking about. I talk about uh, divine autonomy. What was the one I was just thinking about? Well, we'll get to it. Who are we? We are this blending of these two minds. You've got to know that. And the thing is about being the larger mind, because you don't just have access to this larger mind. In a way, you are this larger mind. But you have to claim it. You have to do the I am thing. Oh, I am. So, you could ponder this over time. Think about, oh yeah, I am these two selves. I am these two I am these two vibrational, they're like beeping center points. My individual one moves around. It can move around. I have the freedom to take this one and just go anywhere with it, whether it's the center of anything or not. I can think any thought. I can I can hold any belief. And when I do, it either resonates with reality and who I really am and how it really is, or it doesn't. And when it resonates, your inner being gets very excited, actually. When the two of you start layering over, and instead of I'm going this way and God's going that way, we start blending, and my small mind starts grasping in tiny ways the bigger picture of what's going on, which you actually can grasp it because it turns out it is us. It is our macro self. We have a macro self. And the reason that we have a macro self is that what the universe actually is a flow of energy and information. And it is flowing and circulating across the entire field. There is no part of it that is left out. It is all circulating. It is all flowing. That's what the actual, any motion that you see around you is actually being caused by the particles all around us being caught in a great spin that we are all a part of. And this great spin, this one is your source. This is who we all are, is this great collective spin. But then within this spin, have you noticed, there happens to be an infinitude of individual spins, and it actually goes all the way down to the Planck. At every Planck position lies, theoretically, the potential for the center of a spin. Now, if you're looking at matter, if you're looking at things that are already materialized around you, well, those things are already. So who am I? Who am I? You actually are the consciousness that's driving the whole thing. That's what everything is made. That's what everything is made of. It's made of focus, attention, consciousness. What's actually happening is you have this field of matter that contains a kind of echo of itself. I have just recently come across the term Platonic forms. I think that that's what it's referring to. The Platonic form is like this perfection in echo of the universe as it exists in form, which all the founders of quantum physics and the early founding fathers of modern day physics recognized that the universe is mental. It's made of consciousness. You peer deeply into an atom, and there's not actually anything there. What it turns out to be is it's the ether spinning. But what is the ether? The ether is a Planck. What is a Planck? It's the infinitely, well, not infinitely, but it's the smallest frequency that you can achieve in this density of universe. It's achieved by how you measure. What's a Planck? What's the wall that a Planck comes up against? And what's the wall that the speed of light comes up against? All of this is very interesting. It all adds up. A Planck is how you get one is you take a photon, which is already really small. I mean, it's not even as big as an atom. It's more like a size of an electron. It's a photon, a packet of light energy moving at the speed of light, because that's what light does. It moves at the speed of light. And that photon going at the speed of light, crossing its own diameter, that length is a Planck. And all around the universe, these Plancks are oscillators. It's a Planck oscillator. In conventional physics, this is illustrated as a ball on the end of a spring, but no conventional physicist can tell you where does the energy that's making the ball on the end of that spring, pop in and out? How is that happening? That's not the right visual. What it actually is it's a fluid sea of these Plancks that can go into spin. They can either be the center of their own spin, or they can start tracking and training with spins around them, falling into the orbit of spins around them. That's what they do. That's what's creating the physical universe. And a proton, for instance, which is the little mass of material or whatever at the center of an atom. It's what gives the atom its materiality. What that proton actually is a little spinning black hole of Plancks. And actually, the Plancks within the spinning field of a of a proton are reflecting the information of all of the other protons in all of the universe. They're uploading their information to the whole. The whole is downloading its information to all of the parts. There is this flow in scales, both micro and macro, of all of this information flowing across the universe. Do you know how long it takes all of the information from the other side of the universe to get to, from one side of the universe to the other? Do you know how long it takes? It takes the time that it takes one proton to make one full revolution. Because and all of it's a holographic universe. And the interesting part about all of this to me is that it confirms in physics the mysticism of having an inner being, of having an intuitive mind that can know the information of the universe. Each and every one of us has the information of the universe riding along with you, but have you unpacked it? Or are you just living in the world of your senses and taking what your mind is saying about the greater world for granted or as a given? If you don't unpack it, if you don't unpack your beliefs, the system of beliefs that you have cobbled together, and likely you probably don't believe some of your own beliefs, but you haven't unpacked them, so you're still believing them whether you believe it or not. They are your parents' beliefs. They are your society's beliefs, and you actually, without examining them, you are carrying on things that you actually disagree with. And the problem with this is this puts your own energy against itself. You are crossed energy now. And you're probably experiencing, because of this, you're having problems making your life work consistently. When you can get your larger self and your smaller self into a kind of at least peaceful harmony, if not outright a state of cooperation with one another, if you could get yourself into cooperation with yourself, then there's nothing that you wouldn't. But the other thing that would happen is you would rise and people would see you probably. You would be noticed, maybe. I don't know. The idea of getting into alignment with yourself, wherever that leads you, that's where you need to go. And the reason that I know that is because your inner being knows what you want, what you really want. Even if you don't know what you really want, you may have things that you think you want that are not in alignment with what you really want. And so that alignment, you need to achieve that. You need to find where your dreams of, world conquest, for instance, might be running against the grain of what your true inner being knows we all want in the world. If you're a megalomaniac and you think that you want world domination, you want everyone under your vicious boot heel, the fact of the matter is somewhere inside of you is actually your inner being who knows who you really are, with the rest of the field, and knows that what the rest of the field actually wants is to understand this goddamn pattern that we keep doing and once and for all conquer it. We need to get past this authoritarian psychosis that we keep displaying in the world. Give it 80 years or whatever, and here it is again, that fourth turning or, whatever. People have noticed how this pattern plays out. Now, interestingly enough, about a quarter of a millennia ago, some 250 years ago, which is very interesting. I don't know whether whether these numbers are significant. We started the project um, United States of America, and our next July 4th on 2026 is 250 years from the signing of the Declaration of Independence and the creating of the Constitution of the United States of America. Now, I know that some people are looking at the appearance of what is happening in this moment, and they might think to themselves, "Oh, that experiment is failed. Look at how sad this is." But this is not true. This has not played out. We are not done with this, not by half. And I'll tell you, this country is absolutely filled with so many magnificent. I know that we have at least thousands of tremendous, tremendous people, amazing, as good as the world has ever seen and would ever need. Thousands. We have millions of good people, um, tens of millions of human beings, and all of us cells in the body of humanity. And the project that we have been up to for the last, well, since somebody created us hundreds of thousands of years ago and wanted us at the time to be kept kind of subservient. They didn't really teach us exactly all of the truth of the nature of reality, of the nature of consciousness, focus, attention, materiality, our place, the possibility, what we could do. I mean, we were created, and then sort of left to fend for ourselves on a geologically volatile planet that keeps kind of knocking us back into the Stone Age. We start to evolve, and we start to organize, and then we get to certain points, and then we're flooded out, or burned out, or earthquaked out, uh, asteroided, nuclear wintered out. These things keep happening to us. And now, we're at the point where, are we going to make it to the next evolution and really understand where we're going? Or are we going to bomb our third World War III ourselves into, back into the Stone Age? It's a race. It's a race. Who are we? If we would understand our nature, if we understood our divine nature and the nature of the matrix, this world of platonic form, it's like it's where you work with how you change things on the material ground. You go to where they exist in unconditionality. There's like a place where all of the information is. And we have access to that within our own consciousness. It's our macro mind. And then we have our little micro mind. And how these two are blending in our lives is the explanation of whether your life is working for you or not. If you are at least letting go and letting God, and not, jumping up and reacting in negative ways, and just kind of peacefully coexisting with the field around you, Then what? Well, I'll tell you what, the energy is moving very fast right now. What does that mean? What energy is moving and how, what's the nature of the movement? It's spin, is what it is. Fundamentally, you can back it all the way back to spin. We're all spinning. Spinning in this universe of spin. And at the center of 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 the mother of all spins, we are all spinning together. And your inner being is aware of a number of spins, many, many, many different spins. It's like every intention is like a spin. Every new story told is like a spin. This is a swirling spin within spin within spin. And there is a whole number of ways that you can go that spin in harmony with the spin around you. And then there is the opposite spin. That is disorder and chaos, and it knocks everything down that was, it's like, so everything's going this way. And then you come along and you don't understand what's going on. And you start going the other way. Now you're head-on collision with everything coming your, they're veering to change, and the whole thing is gobbing up. That's sort of like what chaos and disorder, chaos and order actually are the spin with or spin against. And how are you spinning this? And come back around to and complete the circle and think about all the numbers of ways that in our language we confirm the truth of this motion. We are spinning. We are spinning. And are you spinning out of control? Because you say that, you see someone who's, they're spinning out of control. They are. So how do you ground yourself? You need to hold on to the great spin of central order, the source that you are. You are the whole universe. You are that. You are that because you are always that. Right now you are being this physical body. And in this physical body you are spin within spin. And are you going to be a cooperative component to your macro self? Or are you going to be an agent of chaos? Now, all of us have a choice about our own individual path. We do not necessarily have a choice about the great path. We only have control and influence from our own cell point position, our own avatar on the board. By the way, that is where our influence comes from. And as Abraham will point out, those who are in alignment are more powerful, they're more influential than millions who are not. However, those who are not in alignment are themselves performing a service, because this alignment, not alignment thing is what we all need to understand. And so when you see someone not in alignment with who their soul really is, because all of our souls is just one soul. We are one soul, and that soul is God. And it is, of course, nothing but good, and nothing but love, and nothing but wholeness. And where it looks wicked, where it looks awful, where it looks evil, it's because we are not aligned. It's misalignment. It's not understanding our two selves and not understanding the dual self of others, not respecting them for each soul needs to walk their path. But we would all have a much easier time walking this path if collectively we would get together and agree on some general things. Like, what's the meaning of being a member of the body of humanity? Are you a cell in the body of humanity? Yes, then you deserve health care. And it's not, and it's logical, and you just start there. Start there. Now, people, well, how are you going to do that? You can't do that because this and that and the other thing, and how you. So, we're going to talk about how to get what we want. The way to get what you want is to focus on the what you want about it, not the, because the reality is an equation. You have the situation on the ground, which is in any given moment the state of the materiality of the rolling manifestation. That's part of the equation, but that's moving. That's moving. It's and right now it's actually changing pretty damn fast. I there have been times when you could kind of click out of the news through the whole Christmas season and pick it back up on the other side of the new year, and not really much of anything would happen because everybody's sent home, and we're all now on the edge of our seats looking at our YouTube channels, wondering if, have we really bombed Venezuela yet? Have we invaded Greenland yet? You know, we're watching. Has he been thrown out of office yet? Has he been, hanged upside down outside the White House yet? What's going on? Because it feels like everything's moving really fast. There's all kinds of moving parts. There's all of his henchmen and all of their individual scandals and all of the, anyway. So the energy is moving very, very fast, right, in this moment. And, I can't remember where I started with this one, but oh, I know where I got. It's because everything's changing. And so the materiality part of the manifestation, you have to kind of loosely hold that. I know that we kind of hold on to what we imagine to be the hard reality, but that reality is in motion at all times. It's not hard at all. It's soft. It's fluid. It's um, so how do you get more of what you want? How are we going to get on the other side of this? Well, I think we're going to get on the other side of this by understanding this, understanding the dynamics of it, understanding why it happened to us, understanding how to keep it from happening again, how to help educate the population um, in a number of things, their own anatomy, so that they have an understanding of how to taste and test different ideas so that you can decide for yourself what is truth or not. What feels right to you. And then actually, and the other thing, it's not just what's right and what's true. It's how to follow the guidance that your inner being is trying to give you. How to follow this intuitive, this great emotion within us. How to follow it correctly. Because in the name of our religions, many of us have been talked right over a cliff. And that's not what I want to do. But in talking about our physical and spiritual nature, our source-based nature could be seen as stepping on the toes of some religions who think that it's their purview to talk about our nature. Who are we? Who are we? Well, I think that who each and every one of us is each and every one of us. And all of existence is actually this, by the way. All of existence is echoed in those Platonic forms. We're all in this informational place of perfection where we all are. It's unconditional, and we all come from that. We are all here for a reason. The Creator has brought us here. And think of the whole thing like a giant cryptogram with you possessing all of the equipment that you need in order to decode the whole thing, in order to understand who you are and what you're supposed to be doing. Well, first of all, you are part of God. All of us are. And so we shouldn't be throwing each other away. Now, life and death is not nearly the catastrophe that we all imagine it to be either. It is eternal. When we die, we actually don't go anywhere. We're still here. We're all still part of the equation. It's all how you look at the equation and where you're standing from when you look at it. So if you're standing, you could think of your own personal internal equipment like there's like a toggle going on in there. There's a toggle, and you can toggle all the way from your macro self all the way to the farther edges of your micro self. And depending on where you are on the scale, when you address the rest of the field, the whole thing looks different, you know? Turns out that when you hyper focus on your temporary expirational analytical mind side, when you are hyper focused on that side and then fed this idea that the physical world is primary and that consciousness and spirituality or whatever, those all must be secondary effects of the primary physical universe. When you're taught that, then you learn to address the universe all wrong, because that's not actually what's happening. Primary is the vibrational universe. The vibrational universe is primary, as in it comes first. Primary, first, the first thing that happens is a vibration. And then the second thing that happens is the form follows the vibration. And so you should be following the vibrations primarily and let the form follow as it will. I am reminded of Milton Mayer in his work, They Thought They Were Free. He talks about having paid attention to the physical forms rather than the spirit of things, and how the world changed under everybody's feet, and they didn't notice because they were primarily focusing on the forms, and the forms still looked the same. And what they hadn't noticed is, oh, look at how the spirit has darkened around us. Look at how that playful, loving humanitarian, I remember when I was growing up, things like the Andy Griffith Show felt like it was reflecting a spirit that we all were in touch with back then. And when Miss Crump, gets all excited, with her history class because the boys don't understand where this country came from, why we even have this United States of America. Well, I think right in this moment, we are finding out why we have this United States of America and what this United States of America is. What is it? It is our Constitution. It is this spirit of all men are created equal. That is the premise upon which our Constitution stands. And these people who are in power right now, they don't care about the Constitution. They care about the blood and the soil and the geological space and the power and the resources and they have a different view of what America is. And they have lost the spirit. But I think that actually what this whole thing is, in a positive note, and I do believe, I mean, absolutely 100,000% we are on track. There is nothing gone wrong. All is well. It is actually absolutely perfect. Right on cue. Enter the authoritarian. We're think of it as being in a melodrama. And Trump is actually not our enemy. I have a feeling that this poor, sweet man, I think he is both sweet and horrible. And he is so horrible that he is not really in touch with his sweet side. His sweet side is so far away. He's toggled so far away from his macro self. And he is lost in a world of, well, now he's lost in a world of dementia and lies and distortion. He was not our enemy, but he is a friend to our understanding if we but have eyes to see this. And we can understand ourselves and put this genie back in the bottle, chain this demon back under the land of Xanth, so that we can live in magical peace and harmony up here on the surface of the planet again. We need to understand what these energies are and who we actually are. The whole situation is way more mythological and dreamlike than anybody's given it credit for. And it's extremely logical too, by the way. Am I even recording? Yeah. Oh, it scared me for a minute. I thought I'd been going on for ages and I wasn't even recording. So who am I? Who am I in all of this? You are a cell in the body of humanity. You are a magnificent holographic representation of the entire universe. You are a divine consciousness directly connected to the divine matrix. And if you would but understand your own equipment and learn how to follow your own guidance system, it would lead you not just to grandiose riches and large scale projects that you can kind of imagine. But what it really wants to lead you to is a softer experience of day-to-day playfulness and meaning and joy in every moment, both large and small, or large and small, small and large. So who am I? Who am I and what does it mean to be a human being and why does it matter to ask in this moment? Because I'll tell you, the philosophy that is running our government right now has this idea that some people are better than others. It seems like an innocent enough belief, right? Many people hold this belief and they do not realize how distorted it makes everything else. when you believe this. When you believe that some people are better than others, then it follows that some people are the best and those should rule. And then others are the worst and we should get rid of those. And those who rule end up being the ones who say who the worst are and get rid of them. Actually, the ones at the top, the ones who rule, are the ones who create the machinery that gets rid of the ones that you don't want. It's His Majesty's prison system, you know. It's those who rule are the ones who build the institutional systems. And when our institutional systems are built out of alignment, that's why they are incorrect. They have threads of misalignment woven in them, which means they don't work the way that they should. Because if they were in alignment, then they would have been built with the guidance of our overselves who know how they should be built. Our own self knows how it should be built. But if you don't properly consult yourself, then these things can be built out of alignment. And when they're built out of alignment, our institutions, when they are out of alignment, then they do not serve everyone. And then those who have needs that are not served, they become the Loki, demonic, and Shiva energy that comes back around and beats down the capital and burns down the institutions and dismantles the organization and order that throws the baby right out with the bathwater. And so it is important that the philosophy that rules at the top reflects actual reality. And the truth of the matter is that every single one of us is a cell in the great body of the great being, humanity, and deserves health consideration, deserves freedom and choice and food and at least opportunity. The freedom to call your own life, the freedom to end your own life, the freedom to move about the space. I actually believe that the fundamental concepts of order and chaos need to be explored a little more as we ponder the actual nature of the actual universe and then how we as human beings blend into that greater picture. Because I promise you, there's just one universe and we are made of it. Whatever the universe is made of, that's what we're made of too. And it turns out that the whole thing is holographic. And the information of the macro and the micro are being shared across scales through a system of singularities across black holes, going from the very tiniest black hole protons all the way up to the whole universe, which undoubtedly is also a black hole. Who are we? It is worth pondering. It is worth pondering before we jump to a reactive response, even to, you know, so the problem with the Nazis is they want to subtract all the Jews or all the people that they deem are unworthy, everything from the retards to the let's get rid of the Jews, the Slavs, not too crazy about those. Anybody who's not productive, anybody who Doge claims is not, not Doge, You get what I'm saying? Now, the problem is that a lot of reasonable people who are not Nazis are sort of coerced into going along with this system by believing that it's okay to get rid of the worst of the worst. We've got to get rid of the worst of the worst. We can't have the worst of the worst just roaming around as he pardons the worst of the worst after the worst of the worst until they really are roaming around. But then it's easier to get us worked up about crime when you make sure that there's lots of criminals around committing lots of crimes. And as long as they're committing them in your name and for you and to your greater power as a crime boss, it's okay. This is an organizational structure that we know about. We have been studying this. You can find this in schools of law. You can find out about this organizational structure of the criminal organization. Well, why does it keep happening, and how can we stop it from happening? I don't think that you can find that in a law school anywhere, but I'm going to try to address that. The reason that it happens is you create that demonic energy in the first place when you leave people out of your systems. You cannot leave them out, because in their fear and in their anger, as they cannot feed their children and they see opportunities for their children closing up, they will do desperate things. There is no limit to what desperate human beings will do to protect themselves, their children, their families, their whatever. So you cannot leave them out. You cannot leave them out. And as a matter of fact, you don't want to leave them out, because each and every human being has tremendous gifts for humanity. We are like the family madrigal. The family madrigal from the movie Encanto. Everyone possessing a magical talent, even if that magical talent is simply the ability to see everyone else's magical talent and bring it together in a way that it hadn't been brought to, because Marisol, or is that what her name is? She didn't have a visible talent. You couldn't see that she had a talent, but in a way she had sorceress level talent, magical ability. There's a theme like that in Piers Anthony's Xanth series. The very first book, Spell for Chameleon, starts out with a character named Bink, living in the magical land of Xanth, who appears to have no magical talent. And it turns out that he is a sorcerer level magician. What his magical talent is that other people's magical talents cannot affect him. He is immune to their magic, so he just kind of walks through things, not seeing the spells that didn't land and the things that didn't happen to him, because they just don't happen. But it's sorcerer level ability, and I identify a little bit with this Bink, with his magical ability, because in a way, my own magical abilities are extremely quiet and subtle and subdued, and my own emotions seem to be quite subdued. I used to be more emotion. I used to try to throw more emotion at things, and I was not being successful at it. I did not get what I want. The world was crazy, and I quit doing that. I approach the whole thing differently now. I'm a much happier person. I feel like I'm more on it, onto something here. even though sometimes it feels bass backwards. And I also am all alone here in my little OBS, dark OBS studio at 6 o'clock in the morning, doing my little Who Am I show, giving my feedback, my input to the field, my take on how I feel about this moment in time and this moment in history. And who are we and how are we going to get past this situation once and for all? And I believe that the answer is we need to know ourselves. We need to know that we are dreaming this into place. This is not as hard a reality as the realists would have you believe. It is incredibly logical. It is just as logical as Spock would have you believe, but it's not nearly as hard in its reality. It's much more dreamlike. In which case, I don't know what Data's doing because, well, it's all very dreamlike. It's dreamlike. We are dreaming this into place. And our consciousnesses at a very interesting level are all merged. There is a collective consciousness that individuals can sometimes tangentially get a kind of a sense of, because you possess it. It's you, but it's you as at a scale that is the whole universe. So when you are the whole universe at that scale, go in there to that bit of information and find yourself in that one. It- it- so I know we've passed an hour, and so technically I could quit. I don't know whether this is good enough to put on the air yet. Um, if you want to know what it was I was doing, I spent the whole time trying to get my analytical thinking mind into the same energetic space that my greater source-based intuitive mind self is at. It takes practice because your greater self never, ever, 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 ever feels bound by the conditions into any kind of, negative, not backed into any sort of negative space that you can't get out of. Your inner being is always looking at the solution, always looking at possibilities. She's seeing the information of everything that's here, and she can sense she's focused on what you want. Your desires are incredibly important to this equation. You've got to engage your own desire. You have to want what you want. You have if the impulses of your desires are not roped into this equation, then this equation doesn't work correctly. But if your desires are roped into it and your beliefs have not been examined, then you are likely running contrary to your own desires. Your energy is crossed, and that's why your inner being is not letting you get very far. That's why you feel like you're not moving. Why am I not getting anywhere? It's because your energy is crossed. It's like you got your foot on the brake and your foot on the gas at the same time. And what you need to do is you need to take your foot off of the brake pedal of your own inner being. And you need to quit putting the gas. That's an analogy. I haven't quite worked out exactly how that one works. Because it is sort of like putting your foot, it's. I've got lots to say about this. about the general and the specific. The general is actually the brakes. Put on the, get, if you really want to slow down your apparatus, go general and go positive. Well, go general. The general slows it down from the specific. The specific is fast. The general is slow. So don't go to the specific until you have lined up your general in the right spirit. Line it up, line it up, line it up, line it up, line it up. And as soon as you got it all in alignment, now start looking specifically at the stuff. Don't do this out of order. And what you're looking at, what you're focusing on, and how you feel as you focus on it is the determining what direction you're going. And it's not just what you're looking at, it's how you feel as you're looking at what you're looking at. That's telling you what direction you're going. So you can look at the autocrat. That does not necessarily mean that you're headed towards, bad times. As a matter of fact, if you can look at the whole situation of what's going on in the world and see the light at the other end of it and recognize, oh, this all of it has been an exercise of us trying to see who we are. Who am I? Who am I? And as soon as you realize who we are and realize how to line yourself up, and you get a whiff of what we would look like as humanity if we would all line up with our own alignment and then follow our own authentic, diverse, our own diversity, follow our own authentic self, what this world would look like. Oh my God. That is the peace on earth, goodwill towards men that we are all seeking. As a matter of fact, there's a whole nother scale that I have a sort of, I haven't heard anybody else say the scale in this way. So in a way, it's my own invention. I may have invented it and somebody else has already invented it, but I invented it fresh. But the scale, it's a social scale. It has to do with human behavior. And the scale goes all the way on the dark end. It's Holocaust. Holocaust. And it was not hyperbolic what happened. It was horrible, horrible, horrible. Holocaust is at what end? What's at the other end of the spectrum? What do you imagine? Absolute freedom and full synchronicity. That's at the other end of the spectrum. Can you see the spectrum? And all that we have to do is come into alignment with who we really are. And we will find that future for all of us, that peace on earth, goodwill towards men, that one humanity under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen. Holocaust to synchronicity. And we're at that moment, that turning point where is the Weimar Republic going to revert to the Third Reich? Or are we going to make the jump? Are we going to make the leap from the law to the spirit, from the letter of the law to the spirit of the law, to all of us harmoniously, getting along with one another because we all recognize that we are one another. You are my unknown self made visible. We are all in this together, and you cannot throw away those who would throw you away. I wish we could. I wish you could just throw away the haters, but you can't. You can't hate the haters and not be serving the God of hate. If you want to serve the God of love, you have to understand from your loving self who we all are are and what we are all doing. What we are doing is we are trying to figure out who the hell we are. Who am I? And that's where I'm trying to help. We are two selves, and those two selves are the meaning of our emotions. Our negative emotions happen when our thoughts are in dissonance with our analytical minds, our greater macro self, that self that is in harmony with the rest of the field. If you get in harmony with your greater self, you are in harmony with the rest of the field. And that's why the most important thing is go get square with your own self. Go settle the argument in your own internal village. And then come out and in clarity be who you are and help us all find our way to the other end of that spectrum, because I don't want to head to Holocaust. I want to head to synchronicity. And we are all in this together. And in that spirit, I will be back again, if not tomorrow, soon. And coming into this next year, I hope that 2026 finds us closer to that realization of who we are collectively, what our power is collectively, and how we can build a world collectively that works for all of us. All of us, all of us, all of us. A kinder, gentler, more peaceful world. And I will leave you with that until next time. Where is my cursor? May the source be with you.